Conflict rages on in Syria, driving millions across the country's borders. Here, thousands, Syrians and others, make their way through Serbia to Hungary.
UNHCR, we brought in tents. We will put tents at all the collection points. We will give people water, something to eat, and a blanket. And then the police will take them to the registration center.
Arriving in Hungary and other European countries was their dream. But the refugees didn't expect what happened next. Leonard Doyle is spokesman for the International Organization for Migration, IOM.
The decisions made by various governments to put border controls in is going to have a very damaging effect.
What we're saying now is decisive agreement is needed, urgent agreement is needed without further delay to address the needs, as is bold action based on a system of solidarity from all member states.
Meanwhile, the tragedy in Syria continues, leaving millions at a standstill as foreign governments decide their destiny.
Wait on the boat! We're coming! Wait! Take the baby, please.
كنا ماشيين اختل التوازن صارت الأولاد توقع بين الإجرين والنسوان توقع بين الإجرين تعبى البلم مي كله وقف البلم عطل البلم قعدنا نصفر والنادي وبعتنا المواقع على الواتساب للخطر اليوناني واجا انقذنا المعيشة مو أمان ما عاد قدرنا نعيش.
Over 3,400 people, including many children, have died at sea trying to reach the European Union this year. Yet despite the risks, they keep coming. Many EU governments are focused on preventing arrivals instead of managing the flow humanely. A plan to relocate tens of thousands of asylum seekers from frontline states like Greece and Italy has gotten off to such a slow start. At this rate, it will take over 180 years to reach the target. And months into this crisis, with winter approaching, volunteers, not governments, are still at the forefront of providing humanitarian assistance.
Their leader, former US Navy SEAL Eric Prince, defended their reputation, but his image was already chained to both wars that have sent millions running from their homes, bursting into Europe's migrant crisis. Well, now, Prince has his own ideas on solving that. He doesn't want people plucked out of the Mediterranean Sea. His blueprint in the Financial Times has armed guards on patrol, surveillance planes, quick reaction forces, and medical evacuations, with private contractors there every step of the way. When I put that to Prince himself, though, he told me to back up.
Let me back you up. Maybe we start again. I think that's an inaccurate characterization of the article.
You tell me what you think is an accurate characterization.
So the way the European Union is trying to stop the refugee crisis now is with boats that pick up the refugees once they've got the water. So these people that have paid a lot of money to be carried all the way across the Sahel, across Libya, make it to the water, and now the European Union just makes their transit that much safer and pick them up. And because of the law of the sea, if they pick up the refugees, now they have to be taken to European landfall. The answer is to stop the refugee crisis at the southern border of Libya. Gaddafi built a lot of runways all over the country. So reopening one of those runways and making it a border security base where Libyans are trained and equipped and led, okay, the contractor or the foreign element comes in because they are basically the skeletal system that the body of a Libyan border police grows on. You provide the leadership, communications, intelligence, medical, and logistics support to that unit, and they can stop the refugees. Because the people are not walking, they have to drive. The distances, I mean, Libya is the size of Alaska. So they have to drive. Very easy for an ISR, a simple surveillance aircraft, to find those vehicles a helicopter to interdict them from the air. That means stop and arrest. The refugees are then held at one of the refugee camps in the south, and they can be repatriated, but they don't get the ticket to Europe.
Facing closed borders feels like shattered hopes for tired refugees who've made the perilous journey. Some lost their lives, others lost family members.
We are deeply disappointed that although a majority of the member states were in agreement with a wider relocation proposal involving 120,000 people, a final consensus on this could not be reached.
In Libya, you're going to find a very big mess in what is essentially a total political vacuum. How does your new plan, how is it informed by the lessons that you've learned from the past?
Certainly, you know, when you employ people, some people make mistakes, just like we used to employ turbine engines. And a turbine engine only has 2 moving parts, and they break as well. So if you employ thousands of people, some people make mistakes. Just like you could read Inspector General reports from the Marine Corps or the Army or NATO or all the rest. When you employ thousands of people in a difficult place, some people do stupid things, and they should be accountable for that. However, the situation that remains in Libya is one of total chaos, where you have 6 million people largely afraid to go out of their homes or struggling to survive, while it serves as a conduit for refugee flow coming out of Africa, out of everywhere else, approaching the shores of Europe. So how are you going to stop that flow? I wrote that op-ed as a way to say this is not a logistics issue. This is very possible, and I spelled out how to do it. Look, I think the next administration, the United States has spent $9 trillion on defense since 9/11. And there's more places on fire around the world than ever before. I think the Pentagon has proven how to wage war in the most expensive way possible. So I, as a taxpayer, would like some fiduciary responsibility for the next administration to say, how do we do this cheaper, better, and faster, letting the private sector compete and providing that benchmark is essential. So, I mean, look, the company I'm running now, Frontier Service Group, it's not Blackwater at all. None of our men are armed. We do logistics. We deliver groceries, including frozen groceries, from Cape Town and Durban all the way up through the Democratic Republic of Congo. We do aviation out of Malta, and we are the biggest medevac provider for the UN. So our planes fly in and pull out UN peacekeepers. It is not a defense contractor at all. We're a logistics contractor, but we do it in the most difficult and interesting and challenging places.
سختی نبینم ما اینقدر سختی آمدیم باورت میشه اینقدر سختی آمدیم کلا پیاده دیگه با بچه کوچیک داشتیم دیگه مردم داره حالا که میآید مثلا چه سخت بگیره آسان بگیره وقتی که راه بیفته میاد دیگه.
Until now, the response of EU governments to the crisis has been deeply flawed, defined by deaths at sea, chaos, and distressing humanitarian conditions. People should not have to risk their lives or face so many obstacles to reach a place of refuge. The European Union has a legal and moral obligation to fairly process and humanely host asylum seekers and refugees.
Just briefly, is Libya an opportunity for a very quick win for a new Trump administration, and are you aware that this is a priority in his new foreign policy file?
I am not aware that it's a priority, but yes, I think with some smart diplomacy, a unifying leader can be brought in, and I think by and large, the Libyan people are tired of war. They've been at this for 5 years. The country is in bad shape, and it should be a quick win for the Trump administration.